All right, today we're jumping into a really cool duel happening right at the edge of creativity. It's a battle for the very soul of machine-generated music. Our two contenders? AI on one side and algorithms on the other. And believe me, they represent two completely different ways of thinking about how to make new sounds.
So this really all boils down to one massive question. Can a machine actually invent a whole new genre of music? I'm not talking about just another pop song or, a slightly different take on Bach. I mean something radically new, a completely new way of even thinking about music. That's the real challenge here, and that's what we're going to dig into.
Okay, so to really get this, let's meet our two fighters. In this corner, we've got the architect. Think of this as algorithmic composition. It's all about designing totally new musical systems from scratch, based on a set of rules. And in the other corner, we have the apprentice. That's our AI. And its whole game is about mastering styles that already exist by just absorbing massive amounts of music.
All right, first up, the architect. This approach is all about designing sound. It's very intentional, very rule-based, almost like you're engineering a piece of music.
So how does this actually work? Well, it's super deliberate. The composer starts by defining the absolute basics, things like pitch, rhythm, the building blocks. Then, they write the instruction manual, basically a set of mathematical or logical rules for how all those pieces are allowed to fit together. And finally, they hit go, let the algorithm run, and then they play the role of editor, picking out the gold. The key thing here? The human is in the driver's seat the entire time. Complete control.
This whole method is what's known as a white box model. And it's called that because it's completely transparent. Think of it like a car with a clear hood. You can see every single part moving. The composer knows exactly why the machine made a certain sound, because they can point right to the rule they wrote that caused it. And that transparency, well, that's absolutely crucial if you're trying to invent a whole new musical language on purpose.
And listen, this is not just some theory. We're talking about stuff that was happening decades ago. Composers like Iannis Xenakis were already using algorithms and probability to create these incredible masses of sound. Just imagine textures so dense and complex that no human could possibly write them by hand or maybe even dream them up. It's proof positive that algorithms aren't just copycats. They can be pioneers, creating something truly, genuinely new.
Okay, let's turn to our second contender, the apprentice. Now that we're in the world of generative AI, and this approach isn't about rules. It's all about learning sound from just immense amounts of data.
So how in the world does an AI learn music? Well, it's pretty much a two-step dance. First, it just devours millions of existing songs looking for patterns. It's pure pattern recognition. It figures out stuff like, hey, a C major chord is very often followed by a G major chord. Then it uses all that knowledge to basically play a game of what comes next. It makes a statistical guess, a prediction, about the most likely next note or chord to create something that sounds, right, something that feels familiar and makes sense.
And this leads us to the total opposite of the architect's white box. This is the black box model. The name says it all really. The internal workings are a complete mystery. You can feed it a prompt, you get music out, but you have no idea why it made the choices it did. The logic is hidden. So the composer's job changes completely. They're not an architect anymore. They're more like a curator, sifting through the results.
But here's the catch, and it's a big one. The apprentice's creativity is basically chained to its training data. It only knows the music of the past. So think about it, something truly radically new? To the AI, that just looks like a mistake. It's a statistical outlier, an anomaly. The model is literally designed to smooth those things over, to void them, because its entire goal is to make something that sounds coherent and fits a style it already knows.
So there you have it, the rule-based architect versus the data-driven apprentice. Now it's time to see how they stack up when it comes to the ultimate goal, creating something truly new. And when you put it all side by side, the difference is just crystal clear. The algorithmic white box approach, it's all about rules, intent, and structure. So its potential for something radically new is incredibly high. It all depends on the composer's core idea. But the black box AI, it's focused on data, probability, and style. By its very nature, its potential for radical novelty is low because it's always looking backward at what's been done before.
Let's dig a little deeper into this idea of control, because it's so important. With the architect, control is intentional. A composer can impose some big, high-level idea, like say, I'm going to use the golden ratio to structure this entire piece. It's a top-down decision. With the apprentice, control is statistical. It's more like turning a knob. You can change a temperature setting to make the output a bit more wild and random, but you're still just stirring the pot of a style it already knows. You're not inventing a new recipe.
And this really gets to the heart of it all. AI is absolutely fantastic at taking what we already have and rearranging it, polishing it, making it sound incredibly coherent. It's a master of the known. The algorithm, though, that's a tool for creating the unknown, and it's driven entirely by human intent. You could say AI perfects the past, while the algorithm helps us invent the future.
But hold on. This doesn't have to be a fight to the death. This isn't a zero-sum game. The real future here isn't about picking a winner, but about figuring out how these two can work together. A creative alliance, if you will.
Just picture this for a second. What if you combine them? The composer acts as the architect first, using an algorithm to create a truly wild, unconventional musical skeleton, a structure nobody's ever heard before. Then they hand that weird blueprint over to the apprentice. The AI takes that skeleton and, with its mastery of style, fleshes it out with beautiful orchestration and rich harmony. What do you get? The best of both worlds. You get radical, mind-bending innovation, but with a perfectly polished execution.
So ultimately, this all comes back to the human in the loop, the composer. The choice of which tool to use or how to combine them really depends on what they're trying to do. Is the goal to crank out great-sounding music in a style we already know and love, or is the goal to invent something completely new?
And that leads us to a really powerful final analogy. Think of the algorithm as a surgeon's scalpel. It's a tool of precision for making a deliberate, intentional cut to create something fundamentally new. The AI, on the other hand, is like a kaleidoscope. It takes all the beautiful pieces that already exist and rearranges them into stunning, coherent new patterns. They're both amazing tools, for sure, but if your goal is to actually found a new kind of music, you're going to need that scalpel. And that leaves us with one last big question to chew on. At the end of the day, these tools are only as powerful as the human ideas we pour into them. So if human intent is the real blueprint for the music of the future, then the question isn't really about what the machines can do for us. The real question is, what are we going to dare to build next?